Consistent theme where we don't have to worry about that. I have time to set up and everything I need to do. Okay, I am going to try my best to kind of keep this sermon condensed. I'm going to try to cut out some stuff. I'm going to have to do it on the fly, so you're going to have to bear with me because I want to help us get that out roughly on time, but we might go a little over. Okay, my name is Drew. If you didn't catch that, this is my 7th year as a pastor with Focus. I was going to make a get to know you slide, but then I ran out of time, so I'll just tell you something. If my wife Darby is in here still somewhere, she will stand up. Oh, she's not in here. Who knows? I'm married to Darby. She's also on our staff. We have an 11-month-old little boy that just turned 11 months today. He's adorable and cute and crawling everywhere, and it's crazy. And it's super fun. She just walked in the door back there. Darby, raise your hand. Say hi. Hey. Okay, so if you weren't, Steve, what can I do? I'm going to step backwards more. I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep going for it. We finished up our sermon series we're in last week, the whole series over our values. Brandon came and finished that up for us, which was such a sweet thing for him to do. And so now we're jumping into a new sermon series. It's going to be about the kingdom of God. Kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven, all of that kind of stuff. And that is a hugely important topic. And I really, until my time in college, I had no idea. I really didn't know how important this was. And I think it's especially relevant nowadays because how many of you guys, like, by raise your hands, like, roughly keep up with the news? Like, you read it, maybe watch on social media, all that kind of stuff. I personally really used to avoid the news wholesale, and I was very proud of it. I just avoided, I was hearing anything about the news. I thought it was kind of pointless for me to know it. But then I was challenged by some of my friends to consider being up to date with some of that stuff as a Christian, so I could be praying about things and be involved in that way. So I started reading this thing called The Pour-Over. Does anyone know what that is? Maybe a couple? Literally just like 2. You guys don't know. It's really cool. It's a Christian-based company that they send out a little newsletter to your email 3 times a week. They try to keep it really neutral, and then they try to give you some sort of little message of how Christians should think through some of this kind of stuff at the end. And it was really cool. But I started doing that maybe a couple years ago. But I noticed a trend. I would read that, and I loved what they're doing. It's really sweet. But after a little while, I would just kind of always see that pop up in my inbox and be like, well, it's going to be bad and I'm going to be depressed after reading it. That was just my impression every time I was about to go read the news and consume that. It's time to wake up. At 8:48. So I would open this app up, and I just kind of always expected it to be terrible. I expected to see tragedy or economic turmoil, or I expected to just leave my time of reading news just more downcast and disheartened than I was going into it. Which is weird in some ways because as just as a person, I think this is the best time to ever be alive. The people who are like, what time do you live in? And they're like, the 1600s. I'm like, you would not. It was blood. And we didn't have running water and toilets. I'm like, you didn't want to live back there. This is the best time to ever be alive in terms of crime, in terms of all the medicine we have now, all this kind of stuff. And yet, when I read the news, I really don't feel like that. I feel very disheartened and discouraged. And I've seen my friends conversations with my friends be somewhat similar. I felt like a lot of my friends that used to be, people were excited about graduating, getting a job, and now people are like, yeah, I'm going to go do this, if AI doesn't take over that whole field and just make my job obsolete. Or it's like, oh yeah, I really want to go travel the world or something, if World War III or some other virus can come up and wipe us all out before then. And I'm like, these are real conversations. People feel very worried and scared, and things are not going in a good direction. And there's been this shift towards this mentality that everything's just kind of falling apart. It's just going away and falling apart. And looking at the stats, I really can't blame a lot of my friends for getting there, right? 79% of voters in America agree that America is falling apart. 62% of the country say that the country is in crisis. American confidence in church is half of what it was in 2001. Public trust in government was 80% in the 1960s and now is below 20%. Measures of national happiness and national pride have fallen to record lows. Depressive symptoms are on the rise. Anxiety and depression have almost doubled amongst college students since the smartphone came out. And the percent of graduating high school seniors who agree with the statement, life often feels meaningless, has nearly doubled since the advent of the smartphone. To sum it up, it'd be rough out there. It's rough. A lot of these things can feel pretty bleak. There's a sense that these structures and systems that we used to have confidence in just don't really work anymore. And that what we've got going on in general as a human race is probably just not working. A lot of these things we're pretty disillusioned with. And, I think the problem is a lot of the time when we're trying to deal with those things, we go about fixing it with just like fighting fire with fire. It's really how I do it a lot. This is a weird reference. Have any of you guys played Far Cry 3, this like video game? Apparently this section of the room heavily is down over here. Okay, well, this game is really fun. I'm a big gaming nerd, and so I like it. But you're trapped on this island, you're trying to escape it, and there's this villain that really, I think, sells this game. It makes the game so good, and you keep getting captured by him. Every time you get captured by him, he keeps saying this line over and over. He goes, do you know the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That is actually not the definition of insanity, which is funny. But that stuck with me, that concept, so I think that's pretty true, right? You see, that is crazy to do the same thing over and over, expect different results. But when I look around, that's what I see. Like, we're scared of all these viruses that are getting more and more, aggressive and able to combat our, medicine, and we're like, what would really help that? Throw even stronger antibiotics at it, that'll fix it. And they're like, nope, I don't think that works. Or we're like, oh man, all these politicians are so flawed. What would really fix that? Just elect a different flawed politician. Like that, man, it's all solved. Cool, we're good, right? Or, I don't know, it's like, how do I get people to listen to my points that they disagree with me and don't really understand it? I know what I should do. I should yell at them. That is, every time I yell at people, they always really listen to what I'm saying. So that's gonna work. We get these kind of solutions, I'm like, that's more of the problem. We're just kind of pushing it down the road and doing the same thing again, fighting fire with fire. We do it in our own lives. I had a crazy week, and preparing for the sermon was crazy. And I was anxious, and I was at home earlier today, and Darby's like, are you doom scrolling? And I'm like, yes, I am.
On Facebook.
Because I ran out of and I was like, it is terrible. It's like, who's on this anymore? It's awful. But I have a timer on Instagram, on YouTube, and I was like, no, I'm done, so I don't have TikTok. I was like, but I'm doing this because I think it's going to provide me some sort of relief, but then it just makes me more anxious, and it makes it worse, right? And I just do the same thing again, hoping for different results. And I think I'm not alone in noticing these kind of patterns. I'm not alone in noticing this disillusionment, all that kind of stuff that's going on. And I think, as Christians, we should be getting to this point where okay, this is not working. Actually, society as a whole is getting to this point. They're saying, this is not working. We have to do something different. So I think our, call as Christians is we should immediately be thinking, okay, we've been trying to solve this on our own. It's not working. What if it's not us? Maybe we're not supposed to be the ones solving it. Maybe we should look at what God's doing. Maybe we should see what He's doing about all this stuff, see what He has to do. And so, what better place to start than a gospel, right? Gospel, if you didn't know, stands for euangelion in the Greek. Means good news, and the Christians did not come up with this term. We did not coin this. This is actually around. Emperors back in the day used to use this term, saying the good news has come whenever a new emperor or a new Caesar was essentially risen into power, and it was this proclamation that was sent out all over the Roman Empire that says, hey, this new emperor is in power, and so he's going to fix everything. He's going to end all wars because he's conquered everything that we know of. And he's going to fix all your problems. It's all going to be okay. So that is something that they said over and over. So what we see is we come on the scene, and then Christians start using that term. Jesus starts using that term. The writers of Scripture start using that term to refer to what Jesus is doing. He called the euangelion the good news, which is, we miss the provocative nature of that statement. He's being hey, those emperors were saying that? I, this random dude in Israel, am saying that. I'm saying this, I'm bringing the good news. This is the real good news. And there's this indication of it that's pointing to, I'm bringing a new kingdom. I'm doing something else. I'm establishing something new. And so what a better place, is there any better place to start than with the gospel, the good news? What's going on there? And what better place to start than Matthew, right? It's the first one in our Bible. So turn there with me. Go to Matthew 1. So we're like, hey, what is God doing? What's He up to? How is He going to fix all of these issues we got going on? Let's turn to the gospel. This is the good news. Surely we're going to find something here that we're really excited about. We go to Matthew 1:1. It starts with this. This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. We read that and we're like, okay, genealogy, that's weird, but okay, like great, like Messiah, that's like exactly what we need, right? Like we need someone to come, a leader to come in and fix all of this. Son of David, that's awesome, man after God's own heart. Son of Abraham, perfect. Those guys are amazing. Abraham's the father of our faith. That's such a good start to this. And then what's next? What's right after it? Just a bunch of lists of names. Just a ton, right? And we're like, okay, this is a little weird, you know? This is our favorite thing ever, right? Bunch of names. Yeah, I mean, we all learn in English class. Like, if you're starting an essay, you're told to like have a hook, right? You're told to have something like, at the beginning, you're going to get your audience's attention and really grab them with it, and then they'll like pay attention to the rest of what you have to say. This is the weirdest hook ever. Like, who's like, man, I love this. Like, literally, I forget, it's 14, and then 14? You're right? So it's like, someone do the math for me. I can't think of that fast. What is that? How many names? 14 times 3. Something. Someone said a lot. I love that. The same mindset. But, yeah, so you're like, okay, my goodness. Like, this is so weird that he's doing this, right? And back in the day, it was a little less weird. But Matthew's already hit on the like most important stuff, right? Like he's already hit son of David, son of Abraham. Like what else do you really need to say? Why do you need all these intermediate people? Well, let's keep going. Let's see. Maybe he's up to something. So it says Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Pause. Why is that weird? Anyone? Why is that weird? Yes, you're right, one. And I mean, we have a lot of really good critique for that, right? We're like, why should that be weird? I'm like, yeah, exactly. But back in that day, in that patriarchal society, they did not put women in genealogies. It was just the male, heir and all that kind of stuff. That was very not in the practice of that day and time. And so why did Matthew do that? So I think part of it, I think he is really pushing forward women's rights and women's role and equality of women. I think that is definitely a part of what he's doing. But why else? Why her? Why not pick someone else? So does someone know the story of Tamar, just randomly off the top of their mind? Genesis 38. I'll be shocked if you guys are like, actually, I love that one. No, okay, this is a weird story. It really is. It's a dark story. Essentially, she's Judah's daughter-in-law. Her husband passes away, Judah's son passes away, and back then you're supposed to essentially like set her up with someone else in your family, your other sons or something like that, to make sure she's looked out for and taken care of, because widows back then had a really hard time. Judah essentially fails at that task. She dresses up as a shrine prostitute, tricks him into sleeping with her to get her pregnant, and then she's like included in the family and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, what is happening? Like, this is really weird. And then Judah's like, oh, she's more righteous than me. It's kind of about this whole like, yeah, she like stuck with the family stuff, and I didn't look out for her, and so she's more righteous than me. So she gets a good credit, but it's a weird story. And it's a really weird story to put into this genealogy, like very specifically to draw attention to. He could have just skipped over it, right? He very intentionally drew our attention to that. Okay, let's keep moving. What else is going on here? Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Okay, just gonna pause. Weird. Rahab. Anyone remember the story of Rahab? Anyone? I know you guys got it. Think about it. They're going into Israel. They need to get in. The spies are going in, checking it out. Ring any bells? There's murmurs. Okay. But some of you guys probably got it. Some of you might not. Essentially, she's this Canaanite prostitute who lives in the Holy Land, and she helps the Israelites break in to conquer that land. She's someone who really sides with Israel and is really honored in that land, which is great. So she's like a great character. She really like does well doing that. But two big red flags, right? She's a Canaanite, which if you're making this list of like your Jewish heritage, that's a weird thing to know. Second weird thing to know is that she's a prostitute. So you're like, these are some rough edges. This is really weird. So once again, what is going on? After that, what's going on next? Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Okay, we know Ruth. There's a book of the Bible named after her. Great story, beautiful. That whole thing is awesome. But there is a sticking point. She's a Moabite. which is, back in that day, that's weird. She's not of the tribe of Israel. She's not, like, of these people. Weird thing to point out. So we could keep going. Actually, I will keep going a little bit. Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Who's Uriah's wife?
Bathsheba.
Yeah, you guys knew that one, Bathsheba. And what do we know about Bathsheba, right? Like, that was another rough story, one of King David's lowest points. Okay, so you have this genealogy, and I could keep going, but I'm not. There's other interesting things. But what is Matthew doing? Like, this is the weirdest resume or pedigree ever. And back then, we really have to understand that this was a bigger deal to us. We don't really care who Elon Musk and Taylor Swift's parents are. Like, that doesn't matter to us. We're like, they're successful on their own, kind of. But, it doesn't matter a ton to us. And so, why is this important? And back then, this really was a big deal. This was like, essentially, the culture back then was so communal and patriarchal that who your family was really a big deal. And who your family was really gave you credibility. And so, normally, listing your genealogy kind of gives you credibility. It gives you, like, this is my background. Look at how flawless my line of my family is. This is what really makes you want to listen to me. All that kind of stuff. So that is really even more weird that Matthew is doing this. But, back to the beginning, I think that's the whole point. That is what Matthew is doing. That is why he started with this genealogy. He's saying, guess what? This is very different. The start of this kingdom is different than anything you've ever heard before. No other emperor is going to have this kind of background shown on display. This is very different. This is a different start of the kingdom. This is something that rails against the power structures of that day and this day. And it just rails against these human systems we're used to. And Jesus does not seem interested in being impressive in the same way as other leaders in the world. Because he doesn't need to be. Because the power is already his, right? He's much more interested in doing something different. Of using people we wouldn't normally think of. And we wouldn't normally put on the list. He's including those types of people in what God is doing. He's including those people and touching them and transforming them and redeeming them. And that's what this genealogy in Matthew is pointing us to. This is a very different kingdom that's being established. It's not about glitz and it's not about glamour. It's not about having everything nice and tidy and neat. It has these rough edges. It's not about avoiding the brokenness or sweeping it under the rug. It's about transforming it and redeeming it. So Paul is getting at in 1 Corinthians 1. Starting in verse 26, he says, "Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. It is because of him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us wisdom from God. That is our righteousness, holiness, and redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord." This is written and baked into the DNA of the kingdom. Choosing the weak things of the world to shame the strong. He's saying you're impressed by all those emperors' resumes. I'm going to show you one really different. In the very beginning, God is breaking the mold. And that's what we just continue to see happen. We see Jesus continue to break norms. We see him continue to teach and preach that a new king and a new kingdom have arrived. Matthew points out in chapter 4 that this is actually what Jesus starts his ministry with. He says, "From that time on, Jesus began to preach, 'Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near.'" And this theme of the kingdom of heaven shows up again and again and again and again. I never noticed it while I was in college, just how much of Jesus' teaching is actually really focused on. It's just so many of his parables, so many of his teachings are talking about that. Jesus spent a ton of his time essentially doing world building. Do you guys know that term, world building? Ring any bells? Kind of maybe a little bit. World building? He's like, I know, I really know what that is. If you're into, honestly, it's any show you guys watch, any show, any movie, any book, anything like that, world building is really the author creating this idea of like, who is in this world, right? What is going on there? Think about Game of Thrones or Star Wars or whatever else. You learn about what makes up this world. What are the structures? Who's ruling it? How does it run? what are the people like there, what is happening, what's going on in the story, like all that. That's world building, right? That is what Jesus is doing over and over with this kingdom stuff. He's world building. He's saying, this is what this kingdom is like. He's describing what the kingdom he's bringing is like. He's describing essentially like, what is this kingdom? What makes it up? Who are the people? What are the power structures? What pushes this kingdom forward? What makes it keep going? Who's the ruler of this kingdom? And it's Jesus. And what is he like? And as he does this because it's so different than what we normally experience. And that's what the rest of the series is going to explore. We're going to be looking at what Jesus says about this kingdom. Stories about who participated in it and what we can learn about them and what this kingdom is like. And this is essential because as he talks about it, we realize that if you are a Christian, if you belong to Jesus, if you are following him, he makes it very clear that your citizenship is not here. Your citizenship is not in this world. Your citizenship is in this kingdom he is talking about. Yeah. And he shows up not only talking about this kingdom, he shows up living this kingdom. He's the first person to live exactly like people in that kingdom are supposed to live, how citizens are supposed to live. And we're supposed to follow his lead on that stuff. And the kingdom of heaven for him is breaking the world right now. We can see glimpses of it, we can see pockets of it forming. And that is super, super important for us. But what does this actually mean for us, right? Like, what is the point of all this other than being some great heady knowledge? I think the point is that God is bent on doing something very different. And if you want to be normal and to fit in, you might be left out of what he's doing. He's doing something very different. If you want to be normal and fit in, you might be left out of what he is up to and what he's doing. And for you like nervous Nellies out there, I'm not trying to make any sort of statement about like salvation. Like I'm not trying to be like, you can't fit in and then also like, be saved or something like that. I'm like, no, I'm not saying anything about that. That is not it. I'm saying that our walk with Jesus is so much more than just individual salvation. It's so much more about than just us being saved. Because if we make our walk with him only about that, we're missing out on all of this kingdom stuff. We're missing out on what the creator of atoms and of galaxies is doing right here on this kingdom. And we want to be part of that important work. And if we want to be part of that work, if we want to fix these issues in the world that we see, if we want to see all these things that are broken and not working be fixed, both in the world scale and on our personal lives, I'm convinced you have to be a weirdo to do that. I'm convinced you can't fit in. You can't fix all these things and fit in. You have to be okay about fitting in with that. I think a lot of us grew up in the church, and when we're honest with ourselves, we're like, oh yeah, I love going to church services, love worship, all the trappings of that, devotionals, all that kind of stuff. I think we love it until following God actually calls us to do something that will make us stand out. To be weird or to be different, to change people's opinions of us. And that's when we start going, maybe that's not the Spirit telling me to go talk to that person. That must be my imagination, right? Like, I can't, the Spirit wouldn't want me to do that. So we start making these excuses, right? Galatians 1:10 says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Am I trying to please people? Or trying to please people, I will not be a servant of Christ. It's about being a fool for God, not a fool for God. So if we're going to be weirdos, if we're going to be fools, if we're going to be Ohioans, right? Like, what's the plural version, the noun version of Ohio? They're something else. It means, if we're going to be these weirdos and these fools, we've got to join into this new kingdom that God is bringing in. One that is very different than people whom that are going to be very different as well. And so that means sometimes we're going to care about things that no one else really cares about. We're going to care about that person in class that everyone else overlooks. We're going to care about them, and we're not only just going to care about them from afar, we're going to go up to them and befriend them and talk to them and love on them. We're going to care about people even if they don't know all the politically correct statements to make and they're always tripping over their words and putting their foot in their mouth. We're going to forgive others that other people either can't forgive or won't forgive. We're going to forgive them even if that makes us unpopular, even if it makes us be canceled just like they were. And it also means we're not going to care much about some things that everyone else actually cares about. We're not going to be interested in jumping from news story to news story and following whatever passions the algorithm tells us we really should care about right now. We're going to let God determine what we should be passionate about. We're going to let God determine what we care about and pursue that with consistency. We're going to care a lot less about how we look and a lot more about our character. We're going to care a lot less about being charismatic and smart and funny in conversations and a lot more about making sure the other people there feel loved. We're going to care a lot less about having the most recent game or the most recent makeup palette or clothes or whatever, and care a lot more about living a radically generous life in order to bless those around us. So let's be people who don't fit in intentionally not fit in. Not because we just want to be unique, but out of love. Because that's the only thing that's really going to change anything, both in the big and the small, on the level, the national scale, and the level of family conflict. That is the only thing that's really going to change something. We have to belong to this different kingdom, this different worldview, this different way of living, and we have to be in this different way of being than those around us. And so that is what I want for us. I want us to be people who so radically lay down our lives out of love, who follow Jesus' example in such a way that the world has no choice but to take notice. I'm like eating my drink. Sorry, I'm like on and off sick, so it's a little rough. I was going to read this excerpt from this book, but then I totally forgot it, and so I'm going to do my best to just, tell you the story real quick. Okay, imagine with me, you live in a fictional world. In this fictional world, in this other world, being a Christian is actually illegal. And not only is it illegal, you've actually been caught, and you've been brought before a court, and they have amassed a ton of evidence on you. They have all these recordings of you going to worship services. They have all your journals where you've written stuff. They have your Bible with all your notes in it. Sorry, I have no idea how to fix that. One second again. Okay. They have all this evidence. They're amassing it against you. Ooh, that's right. And you're waiting for the judge to deliberate, right? He goes out of the room. You're waiting. You're like, oh my goodness. They have this long laundry list of things against me. What's he going to decide? The judge comes back out. You're waiting anxiously for what he's going to say. And what does he say? He says, I find the defendant not guilty. Sorry, that was so bad. Someone help me. I'm literally rough. Thank you. I'm like kind of doing great, but then like apparently my body's not. Okay, anyway, he calls you not guilty. You go, what? Not guilty? Like, what is that? At first